So there's a million people out there who are talking about what's healthy and what isn't. So I'm just going to give you my version, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. Mine has a lot to do with what's easy and what is just common sense. So there's so many studies that can be out there and so many talking heads on what is good and what isn't. But as a busy mom of 2 kiddos and with a thriving business, I don't have a ton of time. And so I want things that are simple and that make sense, common sense to me. And so that's what I have gravitated toward over the years. I'm Lindsay Grammont, the Homemade Mommy. You can also follow me on Instagram, and you can get some of these tidbits and tips and see, the inside scoop of my life and recipes on my stories over there over on Instagram at HMadeMommy. And you can also catch all of my videos on YouTube as well at youtube.com/HMadeMommy. So definitely follow those and check them out. I don't think you can always see everything on Facebook. So this page, I just want to make sure that I get back to the basics. And so I did a post last night which introduced this whole series. And this is the second video in the series where I am talking about real food basics. So the heart of this video is to talk about my style of diet and healthy eating. Now, for years, I thought I was eating healthy. Okay, and this is where the common sense factor goes in. I thought I was eating healthy. I was eating olive oil. I was eating, good fruits and vegetables. And, I shopped at a farmer's market from time to time. I cared about buying organic, but I felt like something was missing. I had spent years trying to figure out what was wrong with my digestion, I had asthma and my respiratory system. I was constantly getting sinus infections, and I just didn't even think about that I was not eating optimally for those conditions. So I hope I've got your attention, because I had taken a lot out of my diet. Like, I had stopped eating gluten, I had stopped eating dairy, I had stopped eating soy, I had stopped eating eggs at one point in time, but it just still didn't seem, I didn't even know what I could eat. And some days I was just so frustrated because I didn't feel like, I felt like a lot of things were missing, but I was like, it just wasn't exactly what I needed. And so when I learned about this diet that I'm going to talk to you about, it was hugely transformational for me, because it actually didn't just focus on what I should avoid. It was actually focused on what I should be putting more of in to my diet that I had been avoiding. And I think as women, we tend to think that certain things are bad for us to eat, and so we avoid them without even thinking about it, but they are things that we really need. So when I went to an acupuncturist a number of years ago, she actually told me to buy a book. And the book was called Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon Morell. And it was a book that I had never seen before. I didn't know the size of it or how thick it was or what was in it. And so I went, I know I was traveling a lot for work, and I was flying internationally, and I had this time on my hands to be able to read while I was on these flights, because I wasn't really good at sleeping on these long haul flights. And I bought it on Kindle, and I read it from cover to cover. And if you've ever seen this book, it's filled with recipes, but in the side margins is a lot of really fantastic information. Really thick book. If I had seen it before I embarked on reading it, I might not have read it the way that I did, but it was fascinating to me, and I became obsessed with this style of nutrition. And there's a really great introduction in the book. It's about 60 pages, which basically just totally changes your view on nutrition and on diet. It's mind-blowing. If you have not gotten this book, I highly recommend it. But my philosophy basically follows this, because it really, in short, has to do with what makes the most common sense. God gave us eggs with yolks in them, and God gave us butter with fat in it. God gave us milk with butter fat in it. And why are we trying to take all of that out? When we try and take that fat out, we're taking something away. And so fat must inherently be good. That is based on God's design. It's amazing. And so it really is important. So I'm just gonna run through these kind of principles. Eating whole unprocessed foods, you've probably heard that before. Great, what does that mean, right? I'm gonna go into some of that in a future video. Also eating beef, lamb, game, organ meats, poultry, and eggs, but specifically from pasture raised animals. So animals that are eating grass, or they're out in the open in the grass eating, you know, chickens eat bugs and those kind of things. So eating what they were meant to eat, how, you know, they were born from God, and they, you know, are meant to be eating what they're, you know, they're not meant to be eating leftover like pastries and trash from the food industry. They're meant to be eating grass and be outside and getting sun and all of that. Eating wild fish, so not farm raised fish, fish eggs and shellfish from unpolluted waters. Number 4, eating full fat milk products from pasture raised cows. Again, not cows sitting in a pen eating, you know, things that they weren't meant to be eating. Preferably raw and or fermented in some way, such as raw milk, whole yogurt, kefir, cultured butter, full fat, raw cheeses, and fresh sour cream. So I'll get into all of that in a future video as well. So 5 is using animal fats such as lard and tallow. I don't use lard because I don't eat pork, but beef tallow, egg yolks, cream, and butter very liberally. This was something that came as a huge mind-blown eye-opener for me, because these were not fats that I had in my house. I was like cooking with olive oil and thought I was being all healthy. I will explain some of that in a future video on why that isn't as healthy as you think it is. The key is understanding that saturated fat isn't really the villain like we thought, and that these fats are really great for keeping us full and supporting our heart and all of our hormones. Like, I never even thought of that. It's amazing. 6, okay, using only traditional vegetable oils, extra virgin olive oil, but not cooking it at high heat. Using some Expeller express sesame oil, some small amounts of maybe a flax oil, and some of the tropical oils like coconut oil and palm kernel oil, but making sure they're not refined, that they're virgin. 7, taking cod liver oil regularly, and I'll tell y'all which one I like in a future video, but really great support for vitamin A and vitamin D. And no, you can't get vitamin A from carrots, which is what everybody thinks. We'll talk more about that later. Eating fresh fruits and vegetables, of course, preferably organic, but really also supporting your local food systems, your local farmers, because what grows in your area is probably most what you are going to be able to take on better, and smaller farms are really a lot better than the large kind of monolithic big organic farms in California or wherever you're getting maybe your salads from. It's really great, but also cooking them in butter and using those fats along with the food. So like, I have a young kiddo, and with my first daughter, you know, I made a lot of veggies to give her, but I never thought to like mix it with some fats, which is a great way for them to, I mean, it tastes good, right? I mean, I'm sorry, but sweet potatoes taste a lot better cooked in butter than just plain. So we'll talk more about that. Also, number 9, using whole grains. So this is not a paleo strict diet, although I do avoid a lot of grains unless they are properly prepared. So think about it. Why do we not soak our beans anymore? And why do we not soak our grains like we used to? I mean, people used to make sourdough pancakes and breads and all kinds of things, and we've kind of lost that. And I think it's just because we're busy and we think that it's going to take too long. But properly preparing grains by soaking them and fermenting them and souring them really changes the structure of the grains and makes them easier for us to digest, because we want to be able to digest them well and not have them shred up our gut and make it all leaky and get sick, right? So all of the grains that we eat these days are just not healthy for us, but it doesn't mean we have to completely avoid them. It just means we need to learn how to prepare them again, which we can easily. So I'll share some more on that. Also including enzyme-rich lacto-fermented vegetables, fruits, and beverages and condiments. I've got tons of recipes on my site for how to make sauerkraut and how to make your own fermented ketchup and all the condiments you could think of, because if you think about it, we need enzymes and ways to easily break down our foods. And we used to like not have refrigerators in the olden days, right? The olden days called and they want their refrigerators. My daughter says that we're from the olden days, but that's another story. My point is that we stopped really thinking about how to preserve our foods well when we have refrigeration. And we didn't think about the fact that the way that those foods were preserved would actually be healthy for us to eat with every meal, to help us break down the foods, to help us support our guts and all kinds of amazing things. So we'll talk more about that. Moving on, preparing homemade soups and stocks from bones of really great pastured local chickens, beef, and lamb that don't eat any GMOs and eat what they're supposed to eat, right? It's really amazing to have broth on hand to cook rice in, to cook beans in, all kinds of things. So we'll talk more about that. Using filtered water for cooking and drinking. Water is important. The chemicals in water I didn't realize until I started pulling a lot more out of my diet were actually giving me asthma. So the water you drink might actually be giving your kid asthma because of the chlorine and chloramines in it, the fluorides in it, all of the waste products and things that come in the water systems, even bottled water with the microplastics and everything. It's really, really hard on our bodies. Those are toxins. So good drinking water is super important. Using unrefined salt, so not buying like iodized salt and using good sea salts is really important. There's a lot of minerals in there, and we'll talk more about that. Also using a variety of herbs and spices in your cooking. A lot of different flavors, really important for kids to have a lot of different flavors on their palates and really to help with appetite stimulation and other things. 14, making your own salad dressings using raw like apple cider vinegar and extra virgin olive oil and fermenting it if you need to. All kinds of great things you can do with salad dressings that are very healthy for you. 15, sweeteners. Let's talk about sweeteners at a high level, and then I'm definitely going to be diving into this in a future video, but traditional sweeteners in moderation. So I love this about this style of diet is that you don't have to completely cut out all sugars, but raw, refined white sugar, beet sugars are definitely not on the table because those are not traditional sugars, but raw honey, maple syrup, date sugar, and even some stevia, coconut sugar. These are great sweeteners, and I'll talk more about that. Using only unpasteurized wine or beer with your meals, and also your cooking implements. You want to make sure you're using cast iron or stainless steel or some kind of titanium enamel, good quality enamel. That is going to be huge for just not getting aluminum and all kinds of chemicals into your food. Those non-stick pans, the Teflon have, really gross things happening in them, and that just makes, again, common sense. Using only excellent food-based, really supportive supplements, because we all know that our soil is not where it used to be. The minerals and the nutrients in our food are definitely lower than they were when we had a lot of great heirloom seeds and plants growing, and the variety. I remember seeing a graphic. The variety of seeds and types of plants that we grow these days has actually gone way down. We've lost so many species of like awesome tomatoes and all kinds of fruits and vegetables, and the nutrient content is really reduced. So it's important to supplement. We have to feed our body as best we can and just kind of give ourselves all of those nutrients. But having, a lot of really good supplements is important from the right places. There's a lot of adulteration and bad things going on in the supplement industry. Definitely getting plenty of sleep and avoiding the EMFs that come from our phones, and you don't want to sleep with your phone on next to you. You want to definitely protect yourself from your Wi-Fi and smart meters and those kinds of things, and also make sure you're not looking at those lights right before bed. obviously thinking positive thoughts. I'm all about speaking life and encouragement. So I know that you can do this. This was a high-level overview, and I'm going to do some videos diving down deep into a lot of these different areas coming up. So stay tuned. Make sure you share these videos and that you click like on my page. Even if you're just following, if you click like, you'll be able to see things more. And I'll be right back with you soon. You can, again, follow me on Instagram at HMadeMommy, and also on YouTube you can catch all these videos again for the replays over there, over at HMadeMommy on YouTube. Bye-bye.